Hoi hoi! It's louisity again, and this video is going to be about the YA contemporary books that I love 2022 edition. Hoorah! So, in 2020, I also filmed a video about YA contemporary books that I love, and since then, I've read YA contemporary books, and there are also books that I love, aside from that I liked. With the help of course, BLouRay Book Club, I read more. And yes, I enjoyed a lot of books, especially YA contemporary, which is kind of my jam, y'all know. Like, contemporary books is another, pile that is my jam. So, there are books that I love, and let's talk about them. What are those books that I like since 2020? Or since, mid-2020? Let me begin with my 4.5 out of 5 stars, and this first book is a BLouRay Book Club book for April 2021, and I remember the live show of this one because there's 3 of us. There's Ray and of course Richard, so we're like good book compares are together, and I'm talking about Save the Date by Morgan Matson. Honestly, I found this more adult because it deals, to me, the vibe of it felt more like it dealt with adults, but they categorize it as YA, so I'm going to include it in this list. And I love Save the Date. This follows the story of Charlie, who is going to be preparing a wedding for her sibling, and things just kind of went from chaos to chaos to chaos. I always describe this as like a roller coaster, or you're going to be in it for the ride. And on the flip side, it does deal with family concerns, because their family is very known in their hometown, and towards the end, the imperfections started arising. You'll know if you read the book. So I also like that it did tackle that aspect, how it could seem great towards the outside, or we may have an ideal about somebody or something, when we're not a part of it, we're having all these expectations, but then as cliche as it sounds, there's always more than what meets the eye. And also Charlie's relationship with Jesse, it's kind of when she mentioned it that Charlie has this idea of Jesse, that's happens to people, that context applies to people. We tend to have expectations or thoughts about certain people, and then when we are together, they don't necessarily align, and we kind of like people based on our ideals or our version, or our idea of themselves, rather than who these people really are. So I like that it tackled about that. It's a mixture of some serious vibes and some comedic, it feels as if you're watching the whole comedy disaster kind of films, if that made any sense. Up next is a BLouRay Book Club pick for June 2021, and I've mentioned this in the previous video, the book, but haven't discussed why I love, because I read Geekerella by Ashley Poston, and I actually enjoyed this one better, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5. It is Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. Now, this is a sort of a loose retelling of Prince and the Pauper, the classic book written by Mark Twain. Now, because in the Prince and the Pauper, there's a switcheroo trope, so this kind of also happened here. And in that switching process, they started discovering more about what it's like to be on the other side. We follow the story, which actually follow the story of Jess in here in The Princess and the Fangirl, who decided to switch with Imogen, who is another huge fan of the show, and they decided to switch because Jess wanted to give up her character Amara, and Imogen really wanted to fight for it, so they had this sort of deal that they're going to switch. Imogen's going to play Jess and be Amara, because anyway she's passionate about it, and the reason why they want to switch is because Jess kind of sort of decided to like agree to, Imogen's, like sort of agreement that Jess is gonna like protect the pact while looking for like who leaked the script, like because she like threw the script away and then somebody was like spreading it around the internet. And yes, and like the twist, amazing. The little feelings, very interesting, and something that I think that there will be people that will really enjoy. And I found it really fun as well, of course, the entire like situations of the characters, very great. And yes, this is again another book in like the companion series. You can read this right away, like even before you read Geekerella. So yeah. The next one for 4.5 out of 5-star reads is a book that I read recently, and I said in my mid-year Freakout book tag that this book surprised me because it was awesome, and I'm gonna be talking about The Hand of Wars by Adiba Jaigirdar. Now this follows the story of Nishat, who is of Bangladeshi descent, or who came from Bangladesh, and also Flavia, who is like an Afro-Brazilian Irish girl. They go to the same school and they're of course in the same class, and they have this like sort of business project, and Nishat went for like a henna store and Flavia also decided to go for one, so there's sort of had like some competition going on. But the story is so much more than that. It also deals with Nishat's sexuality, gender identity. It also talks about like, also Flavia's like gender identity, as well as, as they go through this competition, feelings are also being involved, and, people around them, basically, judging as well, or making all these like remarks. So yes, that's something that I just want to let you know, like there's a lot of like prejudice as well involved, and forcibly outing, it was also in the book. So yeah, and I just love the fact that it wasn't overly dramatic, but you can feel the impact of the scenes where they should have had an impact, like towards like the latter part where it dealt with also, it also dealt with, of course, racism as well. So yes, so things to take note of. But I just love how, that scene really towards the end between Flavia and China and like Nishat, like when Flavia intervened, it was, wow, that was done like in a vividly manner that's gonna make you think about things. It's gonna stimulate your brain cells, even like the tiny crevices of your brain. So good job, Adiba. I look forward to reading more of your works. Let us proceed with my 4.75 out of 5 reads, and let's begin with Shine by Jessica Jung, which I read for BLouRay Book Club in May 2021, which is like my birth month, and I also created a reading vlog of this one. Now, what can I say? Of course, Jessica Jung is a former member of Girls' Generation, and then of course this follows the story of Rachel Kim, who is someone who transferred from the United States to Korea in order to pursue her dreams of being a Korean idol. And this book like tackles a story about like an idol trainee, since of course Jessica Jung is like a K-pop idol, so she kind of has like sort of her insights about what it's like to be one. So you get to see about Rachel's life of being an idol as a trainee, and little love with a K-pop idol. And yes, it's just gonna make you think. If you're like a K-pop fan, I think you would be able to like vividly picture about the events. And throughout this book, I was just thinking about what's happening to my favorites, or what did my favorites experience, how much the same is it, or like how is it close to this or is it something else? But yeah, something really great. But like the storytelling for me, maybe it's because I listen to a lot of Korean pop songs, you know, and I do stan some groups, so yeah, so it was great. It was a great reading experience, I'd have to say. Even if like in terms of the writing, it wasn't really the most polished one, but yes, it's a great reading experience. So grateful. Next is I Believe in the Thing Called Love by Maurene Goo, a book that I read for a BLouRay book club in January 2021. Now this follows the story of Daci, who is like succeeding in a lot of aspects in life. She's just not succeeding in the romantic love department, and one time she watched, you know, her dad watching Korean novellas or Korean dramas, and she decided to take an idea of like, create like a system, like a pattern, and like based on how these stories went and how they ended up being together. So she kind of like watched the dramas and, you know, observed like how the story went and kind of like decided to take note of them and then like sort of make those situations pattern to her like life so that it could, you know, match her life in love and that her love interest, you know, would love her. And honestly, this book is filled with laughter. The first part, I literally laughed like quite loudly. Like I was like like that's how I was. And just another story about, you know, how cute and how like the way the things are patterned towards those scenes in the Korean dramas are chef's kiss. And it's gonna make you think about like the characters. Like the character may not seem to be likable for some people, and even if, like to me personally, because of their circumstances and the characteristics that were like tackled in the story, I really enjoyed it. There was just a little bit of a disconnect somewhere, and like after the middle part, there was like a chapter that like just didn't really have an impact, and honestly it sounded like, or it looked like a filler, but overall I just had a great time reading this one. The last one for 4.75 out of 5 stars is Bola Bola by Anna Geronga. Now, y'all know that I read this in May 2022. Again, another great book that I read in a birth month of mine. So, just so happy that I'm reading great books in May. So, I did a reading vlog of this one. It has English subtitles, and if you're into Pinoy Big Brother and NCT Dream, got a little treat for you over there. Yes, and as follows the story of Thea, who is in love with his or her brother's friend Lucas, and she's thinking like her way to get into his heart is through his stomach, you know, by cooking great food. I love that it gave me a memory of like high school, but kind of like what I wanted my high school to be, having like full support system and all that stuff. It's so amazing that Thea has that one. She's now one of my favorite characters of all time, and I love that it gave me like that nostalgic feeling of like the things that were happening in school, and sometimes kind of like when, you know, adulthood comes, you kind of like, hey, I wish my concerns were those things than like what my concerns like now. So also, I started watching the TV adaptation. I think that Albi was the one that was like really thinking for Anton. So, but it's fine. And what else can I say about this book? Just really amazing how it brought me back to an ideal high school, and you know, it also deals with like body image as well and confidence about being oneself. So yeah, again, similar theme to You Should See Me in a Crown, being oneself. And there is a book that made the cut. It got 5 out of 5 stars. And that book is Slay by Brittany Morris. Now, this story follows Kira, who is a game developer. She created this game that is dedicated for black people. Like, the only way for them to be able to play the game is that there's a code that black people know, or a lot of black people know of, and that's how they are able to access the game. And one day there's this like troll who decided to blackmail Kiara because of what happened in another like city in the United States, in Kansas City, Missouri. So yeah, it's a very challenging thing for Kiara, but I love the game. I love the way that it was built. I hope there could be a game like that in real life. The way that the game was described is something that people would want to play, and I hope that something like that would be featured, and a lot of like game YouTubers are gonna hype it, and yeah, I just love how it Brittany wrote like the different stories of these characters. It didn't come off like it's an anthology that's not supposed to be an anthology, which is like my usual complaints with books. I felt like she was really, showing like what the world really is, how this world is gonna slay, So I really hope that Brittany Morris is gonna write like sort of a spin-off. It could be like a different novel altogether about one of the characters in the stories, and like tell about their circumstances and their situations, because they were written in a way that you want to know more about like what their circumstances or situations. That's why I just love it. I just found everything that I need, and it's like a gaming novel that's like I definitely recommend this one. Feel free to comment down below the young adult / teen contemporary books that you like or love. So also feel free to comment down below your thoughts on any of these books. So I hope you folks like this video. If you made it this far, leave a foot emoji. Now, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click that subscribe button and hit that little bell icon somewhere down there to keep yourselves posted about my videos. And I'll also put down my handles and my links in the description box, so feel free to check me out and follow me there as well. Support me in Kumu when I do my live streams. Feel free to drop by and drop some virtual gifts to support me. As always, thank you super much for watching. Always be thankful and unleash the reader in you. Bye y'all. Mwah.